Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of our behind the scenes featurette on The Being Who Fell from the Stars. Today we're going to take a look at how we captured the cinematic aesthetic of the film. We're talking camera, lights, lenses, filters. So let's dive in.
One of the initial conversations that Jacob and I had, we wanted to create this period look. We wanted to, really resemble some of the classic Hollywood films, sort of reference like film noir, movements in early cinema. One of the things we wanted to do is shoot 4:3, replicate that classic film aspect ratio. And one of the other things that we talked about was filtration. So we looked at some softening filters, ended up going with a full pro mist, which creates sort of this halation effect around point light sources, and really kind of helps to just sort of create that very romantic sort of feel that is evocative of some of that early Hollywood cinema.
So I had this shot in my head from the beginning, a classic pullout in the style of film noir that slowly reveals information.
This shot specifically, we really wanted to sort of reference some noir sort of looks. And so we used a really classic lighting setup, which is sort of like this light shining through a Venetian blind effect. And, a lot of people will accomplish that with a gobo, which you can put in a Eleiko to create different lighting effects. Or they might use a Cucaloris. Matthews makes these flags, they're often called cookies, that help break up light. We didn't have access to any of that. We had a piece of cardboard at the time. I'm pretty sure our close friend and collaborator, Wes Cannon, was responsible for the creation of this. Basically just taking a knife and just like carving slats into a piece of cardboard. Of course there's some roughness there, but we were able to make it work, and it's amazing how the light is able to sort of wrap around some of those rough edges and still look really nice.
I mean, it doesn't get much more DIY than that.
All right, action.
Rolling.
All right, go Norm.
In the motion for that, we had the camera on a doorway dolly. We were just, backing away from the desk. It was really only possible for us to get that effect by using Matthew's doorway dolly. Couldn't use a slider. It didn't have enough motion. Didn't want to use a Ronin. That type of motion doesn't really have the same sort of effect that we wanted to go for. We wanted to have it be very clean, have it, have a very sort of period look.
You're not gonna embarrass me with a whole dancing business, are you? Traipse around in tights and tutus? Tights and tutus?
Now, for the mayor's mansion location, we used our admissions office at our college. Now, we did a location scout the day before to figure out exactly where we would place the camera for each shot, because we had a really tight shooting schedule. And you can see in these location scout photos that we got pretty close to our final look just in that location scout. And that shows just how important a location scout is. When you don't have a lot of resources, when you don't have money to keep shooting for days and days and days, that kind of prep is essential to make your film a success. Now, the waltz scene was not originally in the script, but it was going to be this cosmic conversation between the alien and the girl. Imagine this void of space where there's just stars sprinkled about and they're communicating telepathically. And this is the first time we hear the alien speak, and this is where he explains his whole backstory. But then I decided it'd be great if the emotion behind it, of him feeling loved and feeling accepted by her, that could be communicated through a dance. So I went full-on Beauty and the Beast in that moment, and there's a beautiful dance number that I love.
Action.
Now, once I started to get the idea that it was going to be a waltz, my brain started spinning with ideas. I knew I wanted those twinkling stars in the sky to make it look very dreamy and atmospheric. Now, we totally lucked out with that floor. So many people are asking, hey, how did you get that floor painted? It's beautiful. The truth is, our theater department was putting on a production of Amadeus, and they had painted that floor to look like the ballroom.
You know, and Jacob and I, when we did the location scout, both agreed. We were like, wow, like we weren't thinking about it originally, but when we walked in, we were like, this floor is perfect. So we ended up talking to them, and the timing just happened to work out perfectly. And it took a little bit of producing work on Jacob's part to make that work, but we were able to shoot in there for only the period of a few days that it was available.
Now, I think that floor adds a whole nother level to the film. It really brings it together. It makes it feel so much like Beauty and the Beast and these beautiful waltz scenes. That's very dreamlike. And so that's kind of what I was alluding to, and I'm so glad that the floor was able to help with that.
So we did this scene in Gordon's black box theater space, which was really nice because it gave us a lot of control as far as lighting. You know, black box theaters, if you have access to them, are fantastic spaces to shoot in, you know, because there's no light sources, there's no windows, it's all completely controlled. For lighting for that, like pretty much every other scene, you know, we had an ARRI tungsten Fresnel kit that we used as a mixture of 150 watt, 300 watt, 650 watt light sources, and we were basically just using them to create a spot of light in the center of the floor to have it really be just sort of like this dramatic space for them to be dancing in.
All right, rolling.
Wait, did you say hold on?
No, I said roll.
No,
I'm good.
So one of the challenges with the waltz scene was the camera placement. We had a couple of pretty difficult shots that we wanted to pull off. One of them was a top-down shot that we had talked about for a long time. The technique that I think we were trying to replicate is what is called a goalpost, which is a length of speed rail that's between two combo stands. And it's a very sturdy rigging solution. Because we didn't have access to some of that grip equipment, what we ended up doing was actually building a rig out of wood, which I don't recommend doing. At the time, that's what we had access to, and it was reinforced, like several long lengths of wood. And we had rigging points for a Ronin. We had basically a length of HDMI cable that would reach down to the ground so we could have a monitor, and then we also had a remote control which we could then control the pan and tilt axis with. So at the time it seemed like a good solution. In practice, once we got it up, we realized the limitation of it, which was that it just didn't get us as high as we needed to get, which was pretty scary at the time because we didn't realize, you know, we had no idea what we were going to do. We had to do some sort of brainstorming on the fly. We realized that the theater program has a scissor lift, and when you operate machinery like that, you should always have certified personnel operating it. And so there was somebody at the theater department that we were able to work with to get the scissor lift in the right place, and then, you know, we really safely rigged the Ronin again onto the scissor lift, and that ended up giving us the height that we needed, and we were able to pull the shot off.
So there you have it, guys. We took two scenes and broke down how we captured the cinematic look of the film. Now I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and don't forget, let's make films.